the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of the City of Leesburg to order. It is July 18th, 2024, 4:30. Please stand for the invocation and pledge the flag.
Our Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us today as we undertake the business of the City of Leesburg. We pray that the decisions we make will be pleasing in your sight. Pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at the minutes. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
I second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. All right. Want to swear everybody in, and then if you're going to speak today, please stand and be sworn in, because you cannot speak unless you've been sworn in.
The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Dana?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to welcome everyone to the July 18, 2024 City of Leesburg Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. My name is Dan Miller, Planning Director for the City of Leesburg. Staff present today includes Deputy Director Candy Harper to my left, and planners Max Van Allen and Melissa Metters. Attorney Jennifer Koch is also present at today's meeting. Today's agenda and a speaker's registry is available on the table by the exit door. If you'd like to speak on a case, if you would please sign that speaker's registry and turn in the page, the signature page to Candy, who is sitting here to my left. Under the rules of participation, the meeting will be conducted under the following process. Number one, the chairman will announce the case, and then staff will read a list of exhibits to include maps, photos, and text into the record, and we'll be presenting that information on the screens. Two, the staff will then read a recommendation and background into the record, and the applicant will have the opportunity to speak about the request. The chairman will then allow time for public comment, and the applicant will have some time for rebuttal. The chairman will close the case to the public. The commission will discuss the case. A vote will be taken, and then the commission will move on to the next case. The Planning Commission is a citizen board which is appointed by the City Commission. They are charged with two major responsibilities. The first is to make final decisions on cases such as variances and conditional uses. And the second is to make recommendations for cases that will be heard by the City Commission. For all cases that would be heard by the City Commission, there will be tentative dates on the agenda listed in bold that you will see on the agenda that you would have picked up today. Finally, on behalf of the planning staff and the Leesburg Planning Commission, we'd like to thank you for your participation in today's public hearing process. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Under new business, case number one, public hearing case number LSCP 2439, Silver Springs Large-Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment. It has been requested that that we withdraw this case. If there's no discussion, I'll accept the motion to withdraw.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to withdraw LSCP 24-39.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. I'm assuming no discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
just to give some quick background, the applicant has asked to withdraw these cases. They intend to potentially bring them back either later this year or sometime next year. They wanted some more time to work on their designs and meet with the folks that live out in that area.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much.
Roll call?
I don't think you really need a roll call for this.
Okay.
It's not controversial. I already thought about that. Public hearing case number PUD 2440, Silver Springs planned unit development. Can't speak today. Same thing, it's part of the same case. They're asking to withdraw the application for now. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes, Mr. Chair,
To
I'd like
withdraw.
to make a motion to withdraw public hearing case number 24-40.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, thank you. Okay, number 3, public hearing case number PUD 24-123, First Academy Athletic Field minor modifications, plan unit development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By way of background, this is an overall proposal that has a general location of the subject property being east of Highway 27 and south of Winsong Oak Drive on the east side of the property, which is now owned by First Baptist Church. This is a request for what's known as a minor modification on an existing planned unit development zoning, which is currently under PUD ordinance number 11-78, which was approved in 2011. It was under the South Point Baptist Fellowship at that time. Under this existing approved PUD, there were 39 acres that were zoned to allow a church, private school, assisted living, daycare, fitness center, a number of items, including unenclosed recreational areas such as athletic fields. Ms. Max Van Allen, planner with the office, will present the maps and photo exhibits that include aerial zoning, future land use, surrounding land use, wetlands, flood zones, and zoning maps.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. The image shown on the screen is the extended aerial showing the subject property generally located north of Plantation Boulevard and east of US 27. The aerial map shows the subject property is directly south of Winsong Oak Drive and east of US 27. The existing zoning is PUD, planned unit development, and the property is surrounded by PUD to the north, east, south, and west. The surrounding Lake County zoning includes A, agriculture to the west and south, R3, medium density district to the west, RM, RP, mobile home rental park district to the northwest and south. The proposed zoning is PUD, planned unit development, as a minor modification. The existing future land use is institutional. There's no change proposed at this time. It is surrounded by neighborhood mixed use, future land use to the south and east, estate residential to the north, and general commercial to the west. The surrounding Lake County future land use includes urban low density to the west and north, and rural transition to the south. Surrounding land uses include residential to the north and west, non-agricultural acreage to the east and south, and vacant commercial to the west. There is some flood zone present on the eastern boundary of the property, as shown here. There are also wetlands present in the same area along the eastern boundary. The subject property is south of the 27441 CRA. And the subject property is located within Commission District 3. Signs were posted on July 5th. The top image is showing a close-up of the sign on the property from US Highway 27. The bottom image is looking north along US Highway 27. The top image is looking east into the property from US Highway 27, and the bottom image is looking south along US 27. Finally, looking west across US Highway 27. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Max. With that, we move to the departmental review summary. Project was sent out to all city departments, plus the Lake County Government and School Board. Under City Department responsive, we did not receive any substantive comments from any of the departments. In doing so, this generally indicates that the departments, water, wastewater, police, fire, gas, library, et cetera, are saying they have the capacity available to serve the change requested by the proposal. The school board, Lake County School Board, had no comments. Lake County Public Works had no comments. Under public responses, per Florida statute and City of Leesburg Code of Ordinances, staff would legally advertise the project, posted the signs, and sent out letters to the surrounding property owners. We received 2 responses in the positive and 6 written responses in the negative. The negative responses, generally, we're talking about noise, light pollution, and privacy. In review of the request, this is a request to revise an existing approved PUD, which has been in place since 2011. The specific request today is to change the location of the athletic fields on the existing approved plan. Basically, they want to turn the proposed field. Could we try the aerial? There we go. Perfect. Looking at this development, this proposal was originally approved in 2011, but the football field was restricted to being on the south side of the property. Okay? And we wrote that in the original PUD. The owners of the property, First Baptist Church, came in to see us and wanted to make a change in the way the fields are laid out. Obviously, staff's first concern was that we're going to be skeptical because this is a little closer to here than it would be over here. Right. And this is residential, and this will eventually, we anticipate, being commercial anyway. So we had some concerns about that. Same concerns that were brought up by the folks in Windsong in their responses. Is there going to be a noise problem? Is there going to be lighting problems? Those types of issues. That's 2011 when this was approved. We then met with the applicants and their lighting engineer experts. And in looking at it, staff has come to the conclusion that there is newer lighting technology that was not available in 2011. That's one issue. The other issue is that what we think, if the field is running parallel to this south line, the lights on this side are going to direct back this way, and the lights on the north side are going to direct back south. If you turn it, use the new lighting technology and the dark sky lighting requirements that we've put in here, we feel the lights will come down this way and be less offensive up here. That doesn't seem to make sense until you look at the lights, the direction of the lights and the requirements in the PUD. So that's the conclusion that staff came to. So what we're saying is, after meeting with the applicants, we came to the conclusion that using the light technology that wasn't available in 2011 and requiring the dark sky lighting requirements that you're all familiar with in the subdivisions that I'll go through, and we feel like it's not a negative change. Now, I can't guarantee it, but that's what we feel based on our conversations with their lighting experts. The football field lights are generally going to be constructed along each sideline, as everyone knows. Football, soccer, any kind of field sport, the lights are run down the sideline. That was our concern. Was we don't want the light, just as the residents don't, we don't want the light glaring up this way. And we think it's better off to come on an east-west point of view. So it would be in an east-west direction instead of a north-south. So the question before the commission today is not, will a field be built? Because it's already approved under the current PUD. But is the commission willing to say it needs to stay in this direction going east-west, or should these end zones line up north-south? It's a hard question to answer. Staff believes it's this way. It's the commission's decision.
North-south.
Staff believes it should go this way because we think it will actually reduce the amount of lighting. Plus, with the changes we made in the PUD regarding dark sky lighting requirements, we think that it's a better option. Now,
Can I ask a real
Yes,
quick
sir.
question? The old site plan, were the two ball fields in the north end?
the two, I do not remember, let's see.
I'm assuming it's a ball field at the top.
Looks like two balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are, it's a baseball and a softball, I believe.
Okay.
Look at the old ones.
And are they night play or day play?
They were always night play, day and night. That one is old. I believe they were simply flipped,
Yeah.
if I remember everything correctly. I don't think we've got a picture of that specifically. But it was basically just flipped. And what we wanted to see was, because we were quite skeptical when they came in originally. And after meeting with them, we felt like it was probably going to be less light. Doesn't seem that way when you first think about it because you're moving a little closer, but it's the angle of the light coming in that we think is better, putting yourself in the shoes of a person who lives there as much as you can. That's what staff believes, from a planning perspective. So we did amend the ordinance in, as far as, we left the land uses the same, nothing changes on that. We did add architectural standards to the ordinance that were not there and were not available in 2011. That's the dark sky lighting principle, so that when you're selecting lighting, the light has achieved the overall effect of containing and shielding excessive light pollution from adjacent properties. And we added an Exhibit E, which shows, and can we go to Exhibit E in the PUD, please, Melissa? That shows the type of lighting, shading, or shielding that goes for the field. And what was interesting is there's been quite a bit of the advancement of LED and things like that that were not really truly available in 2011. Then we added the requirement of a 25-foot landscape buffer with plantings plus a 6-foot fence. And if we could go back to the, thank you. So, one more back, yeah. So, on the actual, here we go, thank you. Along here, Windsong Oak, there's a requirement for a 6-foot fence, solid fence, PVC, to go all the way down this buffer to provide where people can't trespass back and forth. So we've tried to address the lighting, tried to increase the landscape buffer, and require a physical buffer in addition to the 25-foot spatial buffer, and then limited the hours of operation, which is, up to this board to set, saying no later than 11 on Friday and Saturday, no later than 10 Sunday through Thursday. That's just a starting point. It's whatever the board wishes for. We've amended some other language in terms of landscape islands for parking, wetlands, legal description, dark sky lighting. So we've just brought the PUD up to standards of what we would do on any other PUD today. So with that, Mr. Chairman.
Is there going to be, see where the wetlands start
Yes, sir.
and the fence stops? You got one lot sitting out there with no protection.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's wetlands, I don't know that we could legally even fence it.
But
That is true.
Can you do any kind of vegetation or fence that east line?
Good picking that.
Something to
you
think about.
talking about right there where the yellow dotted line was?
Yeah, back wherever that last one was.
Right, it was right running up and down here.
Yeah.
There's no specific reason why we couldn't do that if you felt that was needed.
I was just it stuck out to me that you got one lot out there left out in the cold.
Right, and it's because of the wetlands,
Right,
and we
no, I
can't
understood
encroach on
that.
the wetlands, but we could require some fencing to come down north to south as a corner angle that would give that lot some buffer. We're happy to do that.
Something to ponder while we continue.
Okay. So, under the recommendation for First Academy Athletic Field, minor modification of existing PUD under PUD 24-123. Planning and Zoning Department is recommending approval of the request for the following reasons. One, the proposed request for a minor modification of the existing PUD zoning is compatible with the current surrounding zoning districts, including Lake County A, RMRP, R3, and City of Leesburg PUD and C2 and P. And number two, the proposed minor modification of the existing PUD is compatible with the existing future land use designation of institutional, remember it's a church, use. And then three, the proposed request does not appear to create a detriment to surrounding properties as conditioned in the modified PUD agreement. And that's what we just went over, was the changes to the PUD. Therefore, the action requested is one, vote to approve staff's recommendation to modify the existing PUD planned unit development agreement as conditioned. This would be, because it is a minor modification, it would be a final decision by the Planning Commission. It would not go on to City Commission. So that's staff's presentation, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions of
Yeah.
staff?
Yes. Can the fence be increased in height from 6 feet?
Yes, sir.
Let's say 10 or 12 feet with,
We could probably go to 8. 10 or 12 would be.
all right, 8, all right, let's say 8 feet.
Mhm.
And can we ask for landscaping, move the fence a couple of feet onto the property and landscape the residence side of the fence?
We can certainly do any of that, Commissioner Kaplan. Normally, what we would do in this case, what we're recommending is that you put the fence directly on the line, so there's no confusion about whose property it is, because sometimes it's real easy to think I own a piece of property that's in someone else's,
Plus
because the
maintenance,
fence is
you don't
not
have to get
there.
on people's property.
And,
Exactly.
and the other issue is maintenance. So what staff would recommend is if you want to increase the fence height to 8 feet, and we still have the landscape buffer, which is a visual on the church side.
Right.
And so you would have a good-sized fence, the 25-foot planted buffer, and where if there's areas there that are completely treed, we don't want them to cut those trees. We want to leave that. But
Will that
there
buffer
are
be a
specific
screen?
requirements for
The planted
planting.
buffer will be a screen?
Planting buffer is considered a
So
screen.
basically, it limits vision from the residential side.
Yes, that's the design.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, go ahead.
Chairman. I wanted to just add that specifically in the landscape buffer language, it is written to include the phrasing that the vegetation will be installed with the intent to block any noise or light seepage. So we're hoping with the opaque fencing requirement, certainly at an increased height if the commission wishes, and also the vegetation and the distance, as Mr. Miller mentioned, those three items will hopefully help mitigate any nuisance to adjoining properties.
Who will make the approval? Who will approve the landscaping
My
at the
department.
time of completion? Will the city do that?
My department. Diane from my department is an arborist and handles the landscape plans.
I have a question if you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
You know, you've also got football, soccer field.
Yes.
Okay, then you have tennis courts also. Then you're gonna have softball fields and baseball fields. So you got more light than just what's on the soccer, football field.
Potentially. That is correct.
So, you know, it's not just,
Well, are they going to light the softball field?
I would have to let Mr. Don Birdsall with the First Baptist Church, the academy, answer those questions specifically. I would assume that the answer, if you're going to light one, you need to light them all. But that's been the case and the approved case since 2011 in there.
As laid out now.
But as it's laid out now, there's no protection on how that lighting goes up.
Why don't we
And
ask the staff of anything in particular that they're involved in, and then let the applicant come up and they may answer a lot of these questions?
sure.
I have one more question for you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Did you say
Go
the
ahead.
zoning to the property to the south is possibly going to be commercial development?
That's the Whispering Hills, entrance to Whispering Hills development. And we anticipate that there will be within that large development, that's going to be one of the main access points. So we're going to require at some point, whether this project is approved or not, when it's developed, we're probably going to need to require an access, north-south access between the church and the Whispering Hills as well. So you can come in the Whispering Hills development, either go to Whispering Hills or go to the church as well. That's dependent on DOT because US 27 is a DOT road. But we would anticipate wanting that north-south cut between the two properties.
Just to clarify, the only thing we're really deciding on is the orientation and
That is it.
location
That is
of
the
these
request.
fields, correct?
That's correct.
So they already have permission or authority to develop this.
Yeah. And our concern is that
Maybe we can implement, like she said, would be to have that landscape buffer. It may not, is that included in the original, in the existing?
I don't believe it's in the original current PUD as it sits today.
Right, okay, so we could,
And so what we did was add the fence
Okay.
and the plantings. I think there's a
That's-
25-foot buffer in there, but it doesn't have it's not as buffed up with the plantings and fence.
right. Okay, thank you.
I got the
Okay.
handout behind you, so you're
Okay,
correct.
okay.
Question right here, Tim.
Oh, yes, sir.
I'm Dan. I'm concerned about the noise
Yes, sir.
part of it. So if that's gonna be enough with the fencing and the buffer, is that gonna be enough sound barrier?
That depends on how big the crowds are, and I don't have any way to control that.
Right.
I do know that the school, the building's currently used as a church. There would potentially, it would be used for First Baptist Church athletic facilities. Mr. Birdsall can answer those more accurately. And noise depends on how big the stadium and how full it is. And on a property of this size, you're not looking at much. You're not looking at a big stadium. But as to what the capacity would be, that I don't know, because the size is going to be limited to the size of the stands and things. In some ways, could be limited by the amount of parking that's available. And so there's a number, and it's a small school, and I don't know that First Baptist has any plans to ever go to 1,000 students, whatever. I forget what the number, Mr. Birdsall knows, but it's a small school, so it's not something like you're going to have a high school football game with thousands of people there.
Why don't we go ahead and move to the applicant, and some of these, like I said, some of these might be answered.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Birdsall? Please state your name and your address, please.
Don Birdsall, 1533 Normandy Way, Leesburg, Florida. I'm here to answer any of your questions, but answer some of the ones that have been thrown out there, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've never been to one of these
That's
meetings.
okay. You say whatever you want.
I love nature. I'm a teacher. My wife and I spend every summer hiking. I don't want to tear down anything we don't have to tear down, but I can't promise anything because I don't know how long I'll be there. I've been there for 23 years. I'm getting ready to go on my 24th year. Right now, we use city fields for football games. We average around 300 people at a football game, to answer that question. Another thing that was not mentioned is another purpose for rotating the stadium is the home fans crowd would be shouting this way, the main stadium, towards the church, not towards the subdivision. Trying to keep the noise, again, in that area. The other thing that was mentioned is stadium. This is not a stadium. We have 160 kids in our high school, 520 kids K through 12. We are not looking to build, we don't have the resources to build an expansive thing. This is, the pictures you see in here are literally picked up from other places and put on here because the dimensions were accurate. But we want to leave a buffer around. We've played our games since 2006 at Sleepy Hollow. We use the fields there. We start our games 30 minutes before most other high schools start and try to be off the fields well before 10 p.m. I can't make that promise because if you've ever been to a football game in the state of Florida, you got weather, and sometimes it pushes it back. The only thing that typically goes on at night would be baseball, football, and softball. Everything else goes on in a day. Practices go on during the day. Most of our practices end by 6 p.m. Most people are getting home from work shortly around that time. The football games, we host 5 to 6 football games a year. Our baseball and softball games, we start at 6 p.m. because we try to get everybody out of there. We use Pat Thomas right now for our home fields for baseball, and again, Sleepy Hollow for softball. We are constantly at a problem with resources for fields. This is why we're trying to make this move to do this. The other reason for moving the field to a north-south angle, if you've ever played football or played any ball field, east-west, the sun's right in one team's face at 7 o'clock till about 8:30 at night during that time of year. It's a horrible situation for the kids playing. The other thing, as far as the lighting, the technology on lighting, and I'm sorry that Jeremy Collins is not here to answer these questions, but he installs these fields and works with the development of these in developments, and they do not spread. They are, the LED closed lighting is so focused on where the city tells us we need to put them to light up the field and the field alone. We've had, I'm sorry I don't have them with me, but there was pictures of houses that were 20 feet away, and you can barely make out the house from some of these fields that are built, and we're trying to keep it as far to the south side of the property as possible. And the other reason for this is if we go east, completely east-west with the fields across, we end up having to build multiple buildings to house the kids for locker rooms and things like that, where if we turn it north-south and turn the fields, we build one building, which takes up less ground space, less messing up the natural flow of the water, all those things, because it's one place for everything to be. Any questions?
Any questions?
Can the softball field be oriented the same way as the baseball field for lighting, so the lighting isn't impacting the residents?
As far as, you mean turned?
Turn it so that the diamond faces the same way as the baseball field. That way there's no lighting directly towards the residents. Because right now, the left field line will be, the right field lights would be lighted towards the building, towards the houses.
I don't see why it couldn't. So you're saying turn the left field line,
Yeah. Turn, same orientation as baseball.
right? Yeah, I don't see why that would be a problem. It still wouldn't, it wouldn't take us out of that range of being able to use that
No,
area for the
right,
same area.
Same space, it just,
Right.
the lights would not be shining
Yeah.
towards it.
Yeah, we want to impact the neighborhood as little as possible. We don't, I live in Leesburg, and we always try to work with everybody. And the other thing is, as long as I have anything to do with this, we're not tearing down trees we don't have to tear down along that line that's already there. We want to leave as much there as possible. I'm a cross-country coach. I love a place for the kids to run where they don't have to run out in the hot sun with a little shade.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else to speak for the project? Anybody like to speak against the project?
I would like to.
Okay. Come up, state your name and address before you get started. You're going to be on a 3-minute timer. And if anybody else follows up with him, please don't repeat the same thing. Try to bring new evidence.
Gotcha. My name is Mike Owens, 5718 Windsong Oak Drive, the end house that somebody was pointing out. Just a couple of things. One, I wish he had come to us, come to the HOA and talk to us about it. We could have worked out something. We know we can't stop it. We know it's an improvement or just a modification. What we would like as an association, we've got 21 homes on that one side, a narrow street, and then 21 homes on the other side. So the noise is going to be a problem. One of the things we would like is no play after 9 o'clock at night. I think that's acceptable, should be acceptable. Another thing is no road should go along that perimeter on the north side. The last thing, or second to last thing, we want a 50-foot buffer. Then you can put your fence, because the homes on that side, some of them are very close to the back end of the property. So if you put an 8 or 10-foot vinyl fence, that's what they're looking at. These are homes that have been there since 2006 with forests behind them. And you're going to change it to this? That's a drastic change. The last thing, we would like you folks to take a look at the entrance and exit, because it's a subdivision property that they're exiting and entering on. We know it's the same as the church, but church is one day a week. It's on Sunday morning. Now we're talking about games whatever nights. So we've got some concerns there. We'd really like you folks to take a look at it. Maybe we could step back and they could approach the HOA for that subdivision and we could work something out. That's what we would really like. That's the way it should have been handled. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. There we go. Anybody else like to speak against? Okay. Do you have any comments to the?
Virgil.
No, I don't. I missed this thing. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to, you have the opportunity to rebuttal.
I would like to apologize because I'd never even thought about approaching HOA. That's my first time ever doing something like this. Again, we always try to work, and if you know First Baptist Church, if anybody knows the history of First Baptist Church,
A lot of us go.
Okay.
Right. We try to work. We try to work
court, so.
with the communities. Art Ayers has helped me with this project. Unfortunately, Stephen Roth, who recently passed, helped me with this project, trying to make this a thing. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier, we'd have no problem turning the fence to keep anything from affecting the back of the property. I can't say 9 o'clock works because it's just a matter of travel for kids with schools, and it's a matter of when other schools can get there to play games. But we try to always work within the city requirements and limits to not cause problems with the neighbors. And to my knowledge, I've never received calls from Sleepy Hollow area other than poor decision by some kids from time to time, and half the time they're not even our kids. But we don't have any issues with them with our games at night. We've not had any issues when we've had to go on with rain delay. Again, we take all those things into consideration. We've killed our sound system at games and stopped using our sound system because we hit the 11 o'clock cutoff and the game went to 11:30 because we had a 2-hour lightning delay. I don't know if we put a 50-foot buffer if we can fit the stuff there. That's the other issue. If we can do it, I will do it. I will move the fields as long as I have anything to do it as far to the south of that property as possible. That's what we still want to do. It's just a matter of that orientation of that field. But the other thing is, City of Leesburg is growing and growing fast, and we have 2 months where our baseball and softball teams have to practice in the city of Lady Lake. I've only been in this town for 23 years. I love Leesburg. I love bragging about Leesburg. I try to bring tournaments in here and stuff like that during the daytime to showcase what Leesburg has to offer. We need more playing space for kids. We need more places for kids to spread out and do things. This would be privately run by us. This will not be people coming and going all hours of the night and day. This is for our use. Would we work with the city to rent it out if they need it for something? If the church allowed it to, based on their insurance needs. So, any other questions or any?
All right, any other questions before we close?
Thank you.
All right, we're going to close to the public and for discussion and render decision. Any discussion on it before we?
We have one thing. The 100-foot typical landscape detail that you guys have calls for 2 canopy trees and 2 ornamental with 7-foot height on the ornamental tree. If you're going to put an 8-foot fence, 7-foot ornamental tree doesn't offer any privacy to the homeowners. So if there is a proposed 8-foot fence, I would think that 2 ornamental trees with a 25-foot span is only half of the 100-foot linear buffer that's proposed, that we either increase the number of canopy trees in that buffer or redesign it. So that way they have a good screen and not 11 feet, 11 feet, 7 feet, 7 feet, as proposed on here.
I think that makes sense.
Right, I mean, I understand you're gonna leave as many trees as you can, obviously. You may run into issues where you have to remove something and you end up with
Right.
one home has 50 feet of nothing.
Okay, yeah, what we do is lay it out flat, and at 100-foot intervals, they have to lay in all those landscape,
Yeah.
the number of trees. Is designed that way because particularly for the canopy trees, when they become mature, they're going to take up enough space, and we don't want them to be too many canopy trees in there that there's so much shade that nothing else will grow, and that kills off the sound effect. But I get what you're saying. If we can increase the number of understory trees, or something like that, the canopy trees are kind of critical because they're so large and they grow out like this that we don't want those canopies to override the smaller trees and the smaller shrubs.
Right now, you have the two canopies next to each other, and then you have two ornamentals over here.
Right, and the actual way that would work, I see what you're saying, Commissioner.
Yeah, so there's just
And
it's gonna create a
it can
gap.
be mixed up
Okay.
within that. It doesn't have to be exactly canopy, ornamental. It could be
Right.
canopy, then two ornamentals, or one.
That's what I was-
That's up to the designer. This was a sample, but I'm glad you pointed that out because I never thought of that before. But it's designed so that the landscape person, the landscape architect, would have to bring in the trees, and normally they'll set one closer to the boundary and then ornamental and then another, and they're back and forth in a sort of triangular fashion, and I'm sure you've seen those. But I really appreciate you bringing that up because we didn't mean for it to be exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. It's as long as those 5 are in that 100-foot area.
Okay.
Then you have the appropriate, say it's ligustrum or whatever shrubbery down there. That's the intent. But if you want to increase those plantings, that's certainly something you can do. We just want to be careful about increasing the canopy trees because at maturity or close to maturity, that's when it's going to shade everything and kill everything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's way more educated people who decide what the
Yeah, I was about to
amount
say,
of tree
we just
is.
recommend that you get with the architect and make sure that's taken care of.
Increase that visual
No,
screen as
I-
much as possible.
Right, okay.
Any other comments, suggestions?
I got a question, just clarification. So the main entrance to this property is the same entrance that Windsong residents use off of Highway 27?
Yes.
Is that correct? I see it looks like there's a
When
water retention area.
in 2011, when the church and everything back in the days when this was being built, we were trying to get an entrance here for the church, and DOT would not allow it and required it to come up here. Because this second entrance was in the original PUD. They'll go back to DOT and ask for this again. I can't control, and this will help if DOT will allow it here. But I can't control if DOT will do that. So that will help some. In addition, when the property down here is eventually developed under the Whispering Hills name, we'll be looking for an access point either here, most likely up here.
Right.
So to take some pressure, basically we're aware of this and we want to take that pressure off of it. If DOT will allow this and we can require an access point here and Whispering Hills will have one on 27, that will help as well.
Well,
Problem is we have to put up with it for a while before those things come in.
yeah, in reality, that many entrances in that distance probably is not practical or advisable.
It depends
Yeah.
on, and as the speed comes down and the development comes up,
All the
it may
traffic that's on
become.
27 and people
Yes,
coming
sir.
and going, probably the fewer entrances, the better.
Yes, sir. But it doesn't hurt to try and
Yep.
see what they say.
Well, there'll apparently be one to the south where this new
Yes, sir.
Windsong entry would be.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
But you could maybe allow or ask them when that time comes, maybe to bring allow an access to the south side of this property
That's-
to prevent overload onto the Windsong side.
And that's a part of the comprehensive plan that requires us to have what's the word, Candy? Interconnectivity.
Right.
between the two
Gotcha.
developments. So that will come along for sure in the future. We just don't know the timing until that development proposal comes through.
Gotcha. Any other questions? All right, we'll close and render a decision. There's a motion.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to approve public hearing case number 24-123
Okay. Is there a second?
with the amendments and the changes.
Second.
Now, do those changes include that corner down there by that last lot that I talked about?
If I understood it correctly, there would be some,
Gentleman's house.
Yeah.
there would be some additional, where's my pointer? Additional fencing down here, as far as we can go to help the gentleman that lives here, as far as we can go to the wetlands, and then a little bit down here to cover, try to help a little bit there. That's going to be something we have to work out over time.
Okay, yeah.
Then, let's see, we had the fencing, and then did you want to do something on the height of the fencing is 6 feet? Do you want to go to 8? I wouldn't recommend going over 8.
Yeah, over 8.
8.
And
Looks like a driving theater.
the 8 foot, would that be on the property line?
Yeah,
On the property line.
Yeah, because it just becomes a maintenance issue.
you don't want it in their backyard.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
And we're keeping the 25-foot
Yes.
width?
Yes.
Okay.
okay, so fencing on the northeast, 8 foot fence on the northern property, against any property developed residential.
Yes.
Okay, so that would include all here,
Yep.
add a little bit of fencing here to help up here. Okay,
Yes.
And I know it's in the middle, we're not in discussion anymore, but I know the 8-foot fence, if you live in one of those houses and the rear setback is 15 feet or so, I'm not sure what it is. How far is your property line behind those houses on Windsong?
18 or 20, I think.
So to
My
me,
house is set far forward a little bit more than some.
Yeah.
I have from my back of my lanai to the property line without the easement is about 20 feet.
okay, I guess what I'm putting my mind on, if I was living in one of those houses, would I want to have an 8-foot fence and have no visibility? Or would I rather have a 6-foot fence with still no visibility, but maybe, I'm not sure.
Not so demanding,
I say
not so.
this, why would you put landscaping behind the fence?
We're out of order here speaking to the.
Oh, no, sorry.
I just have to say it because it doesn't make sense.
Aren't they
I'm out of order,
two-story
excuse me.
houses?
Most,
There's your answer.
most are all two-story houses on that side, so.
It's happening.
So,
Things that happen.
This is way out of order, guys.
I'm sorry.
I don't want issues down the road, so we gotta follow Robert's rules. Go ahead, state your case to them though about the 8, because I know what you're saying. I wouldn't want it either, but.
Are we in the middle of
Well, I mean, the discussion
Yeah, but we're in
period,
discussion for the motion.
Are we?
So it's okay for you to talk about it.
I thought there was a motion. Is there a
There
second?
is,
It is
but we're in
Oh,
discussion.
okay, we're in discussion. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to visualize if I had a backyard and I only had 18 feet or so, would I rather see a blank white 6-foot fence or 8-foot? I'm not sure what the answer would be on that. And would it do any good sound-wise really to have 8 feet? You would have more visibility of tree canopy if you had a 6-foot fence with the requirement for landscaping behind there.
I'm leaning towards what you're saying.
I agree.
And, you know,
I have a point I'd like to talk about, Tim.
okay, let me finish what I was saying first. So I would suggest if you want the 6-foot fence, vote down the motion.
Correct.
And then we'll redo the motion and put it at 6. So I just want to get that thought out while we're talking about it.
Well,
8-foot fence is a better
One-
sound
hey,
barrier.
excuse me, we got.
Oh, sorry.
The fact that the fence has to be on the property line is you don't want people from the church having to come to every house and maintain what's on the other side of the fence. So, I mean, that's a no-brainer in my opinion. Maintenance-wise, the fence has to be on the property line.
Yeah, I don't think that's been an issue on this. board.
But the thing,
No, it should be.
what's the most important, the sound barrier of looking out to see whatever you can see. And I think the sound barrier is more important. So I think the 8-foot fence is good.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
There is a different engineering aspect to an 8-foot fence over a 6-foot fence.
Yeah.
So an 8-foot fence requires a much more substantial system of reinforcement than a 6-foot fence does for wind load. So it's not going to be the exact same fence. It could have the distance between posts could be different.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
But anyways, it would
I
just.
guess he didn't like that idea.
I know, right? My point is you might end up with a much larger picket size, a much larger looking fence, it might be less aesthetically pleasing at 8 feet, other than the sound and or visual screen that you would gain from it. That's all.
It requires a different set of engineering when you get a permit. That is true.
A little more dominating. Okay, any other comments? Okay, so if you want the 8-foot fence, you vote for this, if you approve everything else. If you want a 6-foot fence, vote it down, and then someone needs to make another motion. Everybody understand? Okay,
Roll call.
roll call.
I'm sorry, do we have a second?
Yes, we did
Yes,
have a
we
second. Do you second?
Yeah, I second.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah, we couldn't go into discussion without it.
Just
Trust
making
me.
sure.
I got Robert rules down.
You do.
Commissioner Kelly,
No.
Chairman Senate,
No.
Commissioner Sanders,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
No.
Commissioner Ackerman,
No.
Commissioner Bowersotts,
No, because of the fence.
Commissioner Kaplan.
Yes.
You're such a lie.
5-2.
All right. So is there a motion to, well, I'm not going to tell you what to make a motion for.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the PUD 24-123 minor modification with the requirement of a 6-foot-high solid type PVC fence on the property line of the adjacent north boundary.
With the other items.
With the other items that,
The fencing along the wetland and the 25-foot buffer width.
yes.
Thank you.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
I'm gonna mix it up, okay.
May I ask a question before we continue?
Okay, that's
You're
why we
looking
had
for-
discussion before.
You're looking for an approval and to say no or yes or no to one or the other is kind of confusing. I can approve either way. Is that a legitimate?
What I said, my statement was, I'm not going to tell you what to vote for, or I'm not going to tell you what to make the
Right.
motion for. So he made his own motion. So that's what the motion is now. I didn't guide him one way or the other. I just tried to make it clear earlier that if you didn't want the 8-foot fence, you had to vote down I want everybody to understand it up here, you know?
Whatever.
So I didn't guide it at all. I made sure of that. Go back in the minutes and read that.
Basically, what I'm saying is that I might want to be in approve the overall project rather than, be a negative. Your
vote's either a yes or no on this.
Okay.
We still would have been able to approve the overall project.
Yeah,
even though
this
we
is
didn't-
The vote's been called
So
for.
there'll be another,
Right,
okay,
right.
okay, just want to make that,
Yeah.
I want to understand that, that's all. Got it.
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Kaplan,
No,
Commissioner Bowersotts,
Yes.
Commissioner Ackerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders?
Yes.
Chairman Senate?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. Case number 4, it's public hearing case PUD 24-126, Shore Acres Landing Plan Unit Development. They have asked to postpone this to September 19th. If that is okay with everybody, I'll accept the motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Is there anything else to be brought up before the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one item. The terms, I've got 3 commissioners whose terms will be expiring. Mr. Bowersox and Mr. Marshall's terms expire September 30. Mr. Sanders' term expires December 31. So we're respectfully asking you to, if you would like, we will send you a new application to fill out so that, you know, staff loves you. We want you to stay, okay? And
We don't give you a raise.
Staff doesn't get the opportunity to thank you enough for what you do and how hard it can be sometimes, even on what appears to be small issues. But we appreciate all of you and would love for you to stay. The unfortunate part of this is staff has no influence on how the commission votes and chooses to, who they choose to keep and who they don't choose to keep. And that's happened to some of you before where, you know, you've been taken off and brought back on, and gladly. But if you would please, we will email you the applications this coming week, and if you could get those back to us if you'd like. If not, just let us know that you want to expire. But we have Mr. Bowersox and Mr. Marshall for September 30. These are the 3-year terms, and then Mr. Sanders is December 31. So we're trying to be a little more proactive this year and not rushing. But as you know, staff would love to see all of you stay. So.
Do the rest of the commission have a recommendation on these renewals, such as Mr. Bowersox? I'm not so sure about.
Well, I would write a letter to City Hall.
I want to second that. He's my chaplain, though. I can't lose my chaplain.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
Somebody's got to pray for you guys.
I just don't know the procedure. I just was asking.
I do have a technical question I've been meaning to ask. I know the planning and zoning brought this ordinance to the city commission years ago, because I was on it back then. Is those temporary signs you see all over the place?
The feather flags or other?
Huh?
When you say temporary signs?
Well, you know, the little signs you see, you know, come here, you know.
Snipe
Yeah,
signs?
Okay.
because the city's got some on the front of their own property for Ski Beach, which bothers me a lot. And then also there's some political signs that they have, we're hiring, which I think, you know, takes away from that it's a political sign and it's a work sign, technically speaking.
What does it say?
Well, it's one of the candidates running for office, and it says hiring, and it has a phone number. But they're using their political signs to put them in. They're putting them. I've seen them around. I've got a picture of one right here.
I've seen it.
Let me see that picture.
There's one right by Minute Maid 441.
I've seen that.
But technically that's against the law. Or against the ordinance. But definitely the city needs to follow their own rules. I mean,
Where is city center?
along in front of the community building,
What does it say?
Ski Beach advertising. There's like 3 or 4 of them up there. I don't know if they're still there, but
Ski Beach, the restaurant, or Ski Beach?
Ski Beach, the restaurant.
Still there.
No, that would be Ski Beach.
If the way it's
Right, but they're against the rules, and they're on your property, so
the way
they need to be removed.
the way staff has always handled it is if you have a gas station and you're putting out a snipe sign for a period of time that's advertising items sold on your property.
Right, that's different.
We're good.
Yeah.
You can't put 7-Eleven or whatever gas station all the way across town from 7-Eleven.
Right.
It's a
In the
billboard,
case
it's a
of-
billboard rule.
Right, and in the case of Ski Beach, I don't know specifically. I can conjecture that because it's on city property and they're advertising for the business that exists there,
And
even though it's not
I've already got a
theirs.
response to that.
I know, but
Let me see the lease and see what the legal says.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
does Ski Beach have rights to the city, to the community building? No. So I see that as a separate,
None of them can be up regardless of
Right.
city property or
Right.
public or DOT.
I just think that, I mean, I hate those things because they look sloppy.
No, and the reality is code enforcement's the one who goes by and yanks them.
Right.
And there's 85 billion of them.
Right. But these are very obvious.
I'm going to eat there when I leave here, so I will put it on my list of things to take care of.
so
I hate to bring that up,
commissioners,
but I just hate those things.
No, okay.
I see them on my properties that I rent, and I make the tenants take them down, whoever put it up.
well, we
you
will
charged rent for
be
that.
in touch with code enforcement. And while we're on the subject, I would like to welcome our new deputy city manager, Mr. Robert Hicks, to the planning commission. Thank you for coming to
I was
serve.
trying to make him earn his money. I've been wanting to bring that up for weeks, and so that's it.
Good.
But I love, don't get me wrong, I love Ski Beach. I go there all the time. All right. Anything else? See ya.
All right, see ya. All right, see ya. See you later.